There is something every winner in history has had in common, and it is not talent. It is not luck. It is not even hard work. It is something much quieter than that. Something most people walk right past without ever noticing.
For centuries, we have been measuring success the wrong way, and the proof is hiding in plain sight. Think about the most celebrated victories you know. The athlete who breaks a world record, the entrepreneur who builds something from nothing, the scientist who solves a problem everyone else gave up on. We look at those moments and we see the finish line, the trophy, the headline, but what we almost never see is the shape of the journey that got them there.
Researchers who study high performance across fields have found something striking. The people who achieve the most do not experience a smooth upward climb. They experience something that looks much more like chaos. Setbacks, redirections, long stretches of invisible progress. The line between failing and winning, it turns out, is almost impossible to see from the inside. That discovery changes everything about how we should think about where we are right now. In the early 20th century, a Hungarian scientist named Ignaz Semmelweis proposed that doctors should wash their hands before delivering babies. The medical community rejected him completely. He was mocked, dismissed, and eventually institutionalized. He died never knowing he was right. Within decades, his idea became the foundation of modern medicine and saved hundreds of millions of lives.
His story is not an exception. It is a pattern. History is full of people who were losing by every visible measure right up until the moment they were not. The problem is, we only tell the second half of their stories. We start the narrative at the turning point and quietly erase the part that looked like failure.
That erasure is doing us real damage because it makes us believe winning should feel like winning while it is happening, and it almost never does. Neuroscientists studying the brain under pressure have found something that reframes this entirely. When the brain encounters a challenge it cannot immediately solve, it does not shut down. It reorganizes. It builds new connections. It reaches into unused territory. The discomfort we feel when we're struggling is not a sign that something is wrong. It is the literal sensation of cognitive expansion. The brain gets physically restructured by difficulty. People who push through the uncomfortable stage of learning a new skill show measurable changes in neural density that people who quit early simply do not develop. The struggle is not the obstacle to the transformation. The struggle is the transformation. What this means is that the feeling of being stuck, the frustration, the doubt, the sense that nothing is working, those feelings are not warning signs. They are receipts, proof that something real is being built.
Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies have noted something that modern competitive culture seems to have forgotten. In many of these communities, there was no single concept of winning that we would recognize today. Success was measured not by who arrived first, but by who brought others with them. Endurance and contribution held more social weight than individual conquest. That is not a romantic or idealized view of the past. It is a clue about how human motivation actually works at its deepest level. Studies in behavioral psychology consistently show that people perform at their highest levels not when they are chasing a prize, but when they are connected to a purpose larger than the outcome itself.
The most durable winners in any field are almost never the ones most obsessed with the win. They are the ones most absorbed in the work. There is a concept in Japanese culture called shokunin. It roughly translates to craftsman, but the meaning goes much deeper. A shokunin is not someone who makes things. They are someone who has dedicated their life to the relentless pursuit of mastery in a single discipline, not for recognition, not for reward, because the pursuit itself is the point. Master sushi chefs in Japan spend years doing nothing but preparing rice before they are ever allowed near fish.
Not because rice is complicated, but because the commitment to doing one small thing perfectly is what trains the mind to do everything else at the highest level. The patience is the skill. The repetition is the reward.
That philosophy runs against almost everything modern culture tells us about efficiency and speed, but the evidence behind it is overwhelming. Depth beats breadth, presence beats pace, and the willingness to stay in the process longer than feels comfortable is almost always what separates people who plateau from people who break through. Here is the piece that most people miss. Winning is rarely a destination. It is more like a calibration. Every time a person reaches a goal they set for themselves, the internal threshold shifts. What felt like success yesterday becomes the new baseline today. This is not a flaw in human psychology. It is a feature. It is what keeps people moving.
The challenge is that without understanding this mechanism, people spend their lives chasing a feeling that keeps moving. They reach the thing they wanted and wonder why they do not feel different. Then they assume something is wrong with them. But nothing is wrong. The system is working exactly as it was designed to. The finish line was never meant to be final.
The people who seem most at peace with their achievements are not the ones who stopped wanting more. They are the ones who understood early that the wanting never fully stops and made their peace with that truth.
What we call winning has been misnamed for a long time. It is not a moment. It is not a scoreboard. It is not the place where doubt ends and certainty begins. It is a direction, a continuous, sometimes painful, often invisible movement towards something that matters to you, even when the results are not yet visible to anyone else. Every struggle you are in right now is part of a story that has not finished being written. The chapters that feel like loss are often the ones that turn out to matter most, not because suffering is noble, but because growth is almost always quiet before it is loud. The people history remembers did not know they would be remembered. They just kept going. And somewhere in that simple, stubborn decision to continue, everything changed.